I mean, I can't believe it's 2022 and I'm announcing, today essentially on your show that we're going to let parents know when a educator in your school has been charged with sexual assault.
Minister 𝐻𝐧, thank you very much for joining us. It's an honor to have you here. And I will say the entire Pakistani community living in Canada is really excited about the steps you guys have taken today. As you're aware that there was a recent incident with a Canadian of Pakistani origin, little child, 5 years old, in Waterloo. And obviously it's still under, I think, investigation. Then we're still trying to find out. So the whole community, and not just Pakistani community, all the other communities were very concerned about such incident. And the news we heard today, it kind of made us very excited, and we were kind of very hopeful that the things what happened before wouldn't happen again, or at least it will deter things in happening. So we would love to have your opinion and your comments on it.
I am deeply distressed by the rising incidents of hate and divisive anti-Muslim rhetoric that is arising online. It is arising on video games for children and in our media and in the broader discourse. And I think as Canadians, we have to reject it. I mean, this is why so many of our families collectively came to this country in the pursuit of freedom, of opportunity, of respect. That's the Canadian principles that I think unite a lot of us. And so when you hear these examples in Waterloo, when you hear of the tragedy in London, Ontario, I mean, just days ago, we mark the 50th anniversary of the Quebec City mosque attack. These are real incidents that go beyond hurtful words. These are violent attacks on Muslims simply because of how they choose to practice their faith. Right. And in this country, our constitution protects individuals on the basis of freedom of faith, freedom of religion, freedom of expression. And so the announcement we made today builds on this principle in a very meaningful way, because what it's doing is it's ensuring that every school board in the province, public schools and private schools, could access new materials driven and written by the Muslim community for all Canadians. And we leverage the partnership with the Muslim Association of Canada, MAC Canada, a great investment with them. They've created an online learning module. They're supporting training, as well as supports for newcomers, for their parents, and really with an audience of non-Muslims so that they can better educate, better inform them about the threat of Islamophobia. And we've also worked with NASIA, which is a wonderful organization for Muslim youth. They do mental health supports, culturally responsive in a variety of languages, and they've got a young team. And so we're proud to really work to help prevent it at the front end, but also make sure we've got mental health supports delivered through a Muslim leadership and community that I think will make it a bit easier for students to want to get that help, help them recover.
All right. So just a quick question, because I remember last year, you guys also announced a funding and which went to MAC and NCCM, if I'm not wrong. So have you guys started seeing results on that right now? Like, is that what, made you do more funding in it, that you saw that, you made some funding and it had some positive results for you?
With the work that Muslim Association of Canada, I met with them today. We had a roundtable with some of their students that participated in their leadership. That tool was accessed thousands of times. It was used in classrooms. It was used to distill the misinformation, the misnomers, the wrong assumptions about Islam and the practice of Islam from Canadians from coast to coast. And so the answer is yes, it was impactful. It was used, but my position and that of Khalid Rashid, an amazing colleague and the first Muslim elected in the Ontario PC party history, not the last, was that we got to do more. And I want to be clear. I initiated funding and support to counter Islamophobia well before the attack in London. Right. Many provinces are responding to that, as they should. I'm just happy that we were proactive in acknowledging that, we didn't need violence to necessitate action. When you meet a child, as I have in my own community of Vaughan and King, where you talk to them, and they have just totally lost their sense of, they've just lost their spirit. when they have faced racism and discrimination. So I think the answer is we have to do more. And I would suggest this is just the beginning of a relationship with Muslim leaders to better educate all Canadians, all Ontarians, particularly educators and kids who are not from the Muslim faith, about the beauty, the diversity of that faith, and really the importance of respect, which is a Canadian principle that we're proud to strengthen and embrace within the curriculum.
Right. And continue on to that. I was earlier speaking to one of our trustees, Noka Dakro from Peel region, and I wanted to find out that are other school boards here in Ontario also following through with you guys on this? Like, what kind of response are you getting from them on this kind of initiatives?
We've had some school boards that have been, very strong in this respect. The Peel District School Board, Noka's note mentioned, as well as others, Kathy McDonald, among others, have been very passionate about fighting racism and discrimination against Muslims, Black students, and others.
Right.
So I'd say, there's work to do province-wide at the school board level. The reason why we funded these resources is because there's an uneven reality. You've got some boards that do it, they're really good at this, and there's some boards that need to learn how to do it well. So I thought, look, we can't allow 72 school boards to be doing their own thing piecemeal. I want a standard literature, curriculum, resource, training, creates a bit of a baseline in Ontario that every community could access. And that's why we did it. But I will acknowledge that some boards, in Peel, for example, have really strengthened the knowledge and the awareness on Islamophobia, as well as a great deal of work to promote Islamic heritage. And I think that is good, that is necessary, and we welcome it. We really do. We appreciate the partnership in many of our school boards that are fighting to ensure that sense of tolerance and understanding is at the forefront of learning.
Right. And that is great that if we can somehow implement this same stuff all across the board, like across Ontario, and hopefully one day Canada-wide, so we can have better awareness and we can avoid such incidents. Minister, today you announced one more thing about naming the offenders, especially the teachers, right, or the staff, or the people who care for our children. Could you give us some details about that?
Look, I can't believe it's 2022, and I'm announcing, today, essentially on your show, that we're going to let parents know when an educator in your school has been charged with sexual assault.
This was something very actually disturbing to me. When I heard this news, while I welcomed it, I was shocked. I'm like, shocked. Yes, I was shocked to hear that, today we have to take that step, because somehow a lot of parents I have been spoken to lately, like today we were getting a lot of calls and messages, and and they were kind of saying that we thought it's understood that if there was an offender, we would get informed.
You know what? Listen, it's 2 years ago, 2020, I initiated a sweeping reform of the Ontario College of Teachers. That is the regulator that regulates the teacher.
Right.
The college was controlled by a majority. So you had teachers regulating teachers. That's a problem.
Right.
I want the public to have an equal voice at the table to ensure accountability and ultimately to revoke the license, the certification of a teacher, so they never work again. So let me tell you what I did 2 years ago and then what I did yesterday, because they're all interconnected. 2 years ago, I said, if a member of the Ontario College of Teachers, so any certified teacher in Ontario, is convicted with a criminal code offense, something that could be as egregious as sexual assault or abuse or whatever, things like this that are heinous, disgusting crimes, that the parents deserve to know, that their names will be on a public registry for life. And I instituted a lifetime ban to work in schools. That happened. Then we come to today, yesterday. And I hear many months ago that there are teachers working in schools that haven't been convicted with a serious crime, but they've been charged. Well, if I was a parent, I would demand to know if my child's educator is even just charged. I'm not presuming the presumption of innocence is still there, but I want to know. I want to know. Parents have a right to know. Yes. If your child is in front of a teacher that, God forbid, is involved in something like being accused
Right.
before the courts of something like sexual assault. So yesterday's announcement ensures a few things. One, you are disclosed. B, their name is on a public registry. If they are not convicted, they come off the list. But you should know, publicly available, and I mandated every educator, the child care staff, the education staff, every teacher must complete full comprehensive sexual abuse prevention training before the start of the next school year. So by September, it's historic. We're the only province to do it. And so to your point, how the heck is it possible to be that we didn't do this? And by the way, we're the only ones, which is troubling for all of Canada. I hope other provinces will follow, but we have taken a zero tolerance approach. No apologies. Most educators, they care about the kids. They work their behinds off. They're good people. They're my family, my aunts. These are people who love kids. But for the bad apples that exist, zero tolerance. You will never teach in Ontario. Your name will be publicly available. And more importantly, you will not be able to be employed working with children. And that, I think, is a public safety imperative that every parent deserves. And to your point, that should have been in place a decade ago.
And does that extend to private labels as well, or is it only for the government officials?
So it applies to the College of Teachers, the Ontario College. So anyone who's, so it could be, you could have teachers who are licensed through the Ontario College of Teachers. It depends on their individual circumstance. But this would definitely cover everyone in the public system. Some teachers in private school are not certified through the Ontario College of Teachers, but what we have done for private schools and independent schools, we're now going to be able to say to them, look, before you hire a teacher from a school board, you want to look into their past, go to the website to figure out if they have a history. Because we're not just posting criminal offenses. If there was within the college, they get to sanction teachers for lesser types of things, not crimes, but maybe they inappropriately handled the situation. They get reprimanded. They get disciplined. There's a disciplinary committee. I'm now posting even the disciplinary committee results to create full accountability. So an employer, like an independent school, could say, "Oh my goodness, this person applied." But I went on the Ontario College of Teachers website and I noticed that he has 9 disciplinary committee sanctions. Oh my goodness, this guy, God forbid, is charged by the Ontario Criminal Code. He violated it. And that will empower the private school to say, no, we're not going to bring this person on. Obviously not the right fit. So it'll help them, but it is for anyone certified.
So anyone certified, right? Because we know that there are a lot of private daycares and a lot of private schools and independent schools who don't necessarily, employ from Ontario College of Teachers and all that, right? So is there any precautions for them coming in future?
Well, I think we're open to, listening to parents about how we can further reduce the risk for families. I mean, at the end of the day, any childcare, independent, private, for-profit, nonprofit, doesn't matter. If they're licensed, which most of them are, including faith-based and cultural childcare, then they're covered under this because we also did it for the College of Early Childhood Educators, which is childcare, and we did it for the College of Teachers, which is the teachers in the schools. So I guess what I'd signal is a willingness to listen to how we can improve the safety of children and take zero tolerance. Ontario, we only regulate the publicly funded schools. So I started with the powers that I have. Absolutely. But let me tell you, I'd be very uncomfortable with a offender being near a child in any school. Just
like any other parent. I totally agree with you, Minister. Other thing I wanted to ask you is when you were saying that, even if you're charged and then if your name, you've been released later on that, it was a false charges or whatever, and then your name takes off, wouldn't it be somehow diminish the, a reputation of that individual whose name was on the registry first and then they took off? Because a lot of people are kind of talking about that as well. So what's your scope on that?
Well, look, I mean, if you're charged before a court, it's public knowledge, and anyone could go to a public courthouse and find out that record. Exactly. So all we're doing is making it a bit more accessible for individuals, appreciating that the conviction is the choice of the independent court. We have nothing to do with that. We're not presuming guilt. We're simply informing families of something that I think you deserve to know. And, at the end of the day, you're charged with something as egregious as the assault, the abuse of a child. I think we have to err on the side of caution and the public interest by informing them. But obviously, they're going to go through the courts and they'll be afforded a due process. That's critical in Canada. I make no assumptions on these individuals, other than when people commit heinous crimes against children. It is my position they should not teach. It is my position that they should face jail time. We should take a zero tolerance on the most heinous criminals and pedophiles in Canada. And I don't have any regret for that. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely, and we totally agree with you. And I believe that all the parents of Ontario definitely, agree with you and support you on this one. And I'm sure that the people and the parents from other provinces are also looking up to their own ministers of education. That we have a roadmap right now. Let's follow through. Thank you for your time. It's an honor to have you here. And as the Canadian of Pakistani origin, my community really, really appreciates what you have done because we have recently been through this. It was a very sad moment for us. May it be an anti-Islamophobic thing or maybe the child in a school. So we experienced both in such a short time, and you covered both, very diligently. So we really, really appreciate your efforts and your position, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just want to say I want to thank the Canadian Pakistani community. I mean, honestly, through this pandemic, hardworking, charitable, kind. It's a beautiful community. I've learned so much about the diversity within the Pakistani community. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for what you do, for your courage in getting through the pandemic. I mean, if I could leave you on one positive note, I really do believe we are moving forward as a province when it comes to how we deal with and respond to COVID. Our kids are in school, our businesses are reopening, our protocols are lifting in a measured way, in a cautious way. It gives me hope. So I hope everyone retains that hope as we look forward, and we just continue to overcome the difficulty of this pandemic, because our premier is the number one guy that wants to just get us to the finish line. So let's just continue to be thoughtful, kind to each other, and generous as Canadians. And I think we'll look back. It'll be a nightmare in our history as a story, but it will be also a story of triumph, of kindness, decency, and civility. And I think that's what makes me very proud to be a Canadian and proud to celebrate the Pakistani heritage that contributes so much to my community in Vaughan. We've got a wonderful Pakistani community, very close with them, and right across Canada.
Right, and absolutely. And I think as an Ontarian, we did well for COVID. We did it well as a public, as the government, and we're excited that it's finally getting over. And we're really hoping and praying for many more terms for you, so you can keep serving communities like this.
Is it okay? Would it be fair to say, inshallah, we're going to get through this?
Absolutely, inshallah, brother. We're looking for many more terms for you right now.
Thank you. Okay, have a wonderful night. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Have yourself a good night.
Thanks.